Live from the Plutopia News Network, this is the Plutopia Happy Hour, and our guest tonight is Max Nofziger. The unusual suspects are also here: Susie Sheeler, Screamish Joy. I'm Scoop Sweeney, and my partner in crime and the original Silver Fox, John Bobkowski, is here.
Oh man, you're gonna make Kenny Rogers. Is he still around? Could he be
Nope, you're
irritated
not
with
going to
me?
make him anything at all.
He's gone,
dead.
long gone.
He hadn't returned my calls in a long time.
Well, I just stopped in to see what condition my condition is in. Anyway,
Yeah, today we have Max Nofziger.
Max Nofziger.
Austin. I'm so excited. I'm really excited.
Very
Stephanie
exciting.
and I grew up in this area in Austin and Georgetown, and we've known you a long time.
Well, and I can tell you guys have been practicing saying my name.
No,
You got it right every time so far.
no, man, I'm telling you, we're children. We grew up in Georgetown and Austin between 70s and 80s. We know you. We know
I've
you
been
well.
able to pronounce your name since I first met you on the street corner at Congress and Oltorf.
John, I hope you were going to tell that story about how we met, because I can't remember how
That's
we met.
how we met.
I've just known you forever.
I was working close to there. I was working at Post Road, and I would wander up that way. I wandered over to Mother Nature's health food store a lot, where Allie Hald was working, and you and I both knew her. And you were there selling flowers, and I would stop and talk to you, and we got to be friends back then. So that was a long time ago.
Well, in the 70s for sure. So did you work at that county building on Post Road?
Yeah, I actually worked for the state. I was in poverty programs for the state. Boy, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Let's see. I started working there in 1972, I think, around then.
And I started selling flowers there at that corner in 75.
Right on. So I had been there for a few years when you showed up, and you were there for, I don't know, how long were you on that corner?
Well, I was there till 1980, and then
Wow.
6th Street was starting to take off. So the flower people decided we'd try a stand down on 6th Street. So I was the first flower vendor to go down on 6th Street. I had a cart outside of Wiley's, if you remember that place.
Yeah.
And boy, that was like being semi-retired, because instead of trying to get people to roll down their windows in their cars, you were actually talking to them as they walked by on the street. So it was really easy to contact people.
Is my memory correct that the flower people were Steve and Denise French? Was that their name?
Very good. Yeah, Steve and Denise.
Yeah.
I'm glad you remembered them. They were a married couple that were from Dallas, and they got that flower business going. It had nothing to do with the church or the Moonies or anything. It was just good old hippie capitalism.
Right on.
And, they made
Went on for a long time.
They made a good life for themselves and their kids, and a whole bunch of flower vendors. Crazy Carl was a regular at the time. And Sam, the flower man, he later took over my spot on 6th Street.
Now, didn't Crazy Carl run for your council seat when you left?
He may have. He had run for office before I had. And he was part of my inspiration, actually, to run for office, because I thought if somebody like him could run for office, I could.
No, it's harder to get elected if your first name is Crazy.
Well, I think he planned it that way. I think his political career worked out about the way he planned it. So.
Crazy Carl Hickerson Bull.
That being said, well, I'm sure that you interacted with Leslie back in the day, being on the city council.
Well, I interacted with him when he ran for mayor.
Yes.
And I ran for mayor. I think that was 2003.
Yeah.
I do believe. So that was the most interaction I ever had with Leslie. So I didn't really, I got to know him through that experience, but otherwise I didn't really spend much time with him.
I can't believe that neither one of you won.
Now,
Right?
I did win.
Oh, did you win? Were you the mayor?
Oh, no, I won city council office.
Oh,
I
no.
didn't win that particular race, but
Right.
maybe we split the vote. That's why neither
There
of
it
us won.
is. That's what happened.
You know,
That's what
I
happened.
really thought you were going to win the race.
I should have. You
I
know,
know,
knew
absolutely.
I was the best candidate by far.
Clearly.
But sometimes it just doesn't work out.
You
But
know, like Kirk, you could run again.
I finally did win in '87. You'll remember that probably. After
Yep.
that was my fifth attempt to get elected, and I did win that time.
You know, I'm remembering going on. There was a run that you set up, and we all got T-shirts. I think the T-shirts said "Vote the Max." Am I
Uh-huh.
remembering
Max.
that right?
Well,
It seems like we went down and ran like it was like a 5K or something.
yes, and
Run for the Sun. Was it
that
called
was
Run for
it.
the
That
Sun?
was it, John. Now that's the one that I did in '81, and it was a run for the sun. We started down on Auditorium Shores. It was totally unauthorized by the city or any, permits or anything like that. So
You're all running for city council. So what?
yeah, right. And we probably, John, I'm so glad you were amongst them. We didn't have a huge crowd. None of my events in those days generated a huge crowd. So I'm glad you have that memory, and you probably still have the T-shirt, don't you?
I'm not sure. I would have to look.
Well, it's a classic. If you do, keep it.
I have been known to wear T-shirts out.
You might have worn that one out.
I do wear T-shirts for years. I never kind of like put them away.
Me too. You know, I've got thousands of T-shirts. When you're a city council member, every group that has an event that produces a T-shirt gives you one.
Oh, cool.
I have thousands of pristine T-shirts worn maybe once or never. If anybody out there in Plutopia land is into T-shirts, I've got them.
I think we're all into them.
You just gave me a reason to run for city council.
Right.
Well, yeah. See, that was a perk nobody ever told me about. I didn't know that happened, but it did.
Well, Max, you had suggested at one point that Austin be named the live music capital of the universe. And of course, they massaged that into the live music capital of the world. What do you think of the change between that time and the way the live music capital is today?
Well, first, I want to compliment you on your research. You must have read that somewhere. I don't know where you came across that little tidbit. But yes, that was, just to amplify that, Nancy Copland, who was the chairwoman of the Music Commission at the time, came to my office with the suggestion we name Austin the live music capital of America. And I said, well, this is no time to be shy or modest. We're Texans. Let's beat our chest a little bit, be outrageous, and say we're the live music capital of the universe. And to hell with the Martians, they can, invade us, vaporize us, whatever they're going to do if they want to fight
me. Fight me.
Yeah. So, but she said, well, I like that idea, but your colleagues will never get it passed by your colleagues. And I knew she was right. So that was the compromise from America, the universe, to the world. So I feel like that slogan worked out really well, but
Yeah.
I think the city has not done a good job of living up to that. I think a lot of policies city councils have enacted since then have really gone against that. And I mean, obviously made the city a very expensive place to live, which puts a squeeze on all musicians and artists. So, I don't think that, I think other considerations came to the fore with other mayors and other council members.
Yeah, that's always the problem with political considerations. The great ideas sometimes get watered down considerably.
Well, yeah, and just taken over by other priorities. Other councils wanted to grow the city. They really wanted to generate a lot of money. This became a city where money is, I mean, Elon Musk moved here for heaven's sake.
And some other billionaires too.
And a bunch of billionaires. Yeah, it's a place for billionaires now. It used to be a place for homeless hippies that wanted to be musicians. So that's the big
Yeah.
transition we've seen in my 49 years. Next year it'll be 50 years that I've been here.
Wow.
Pretty amazing.
That is insane.
It is insane. But one thing along that line, the Music Commission just created a program. The city just created a program for musicians. It's the music event program or some name like that. But musicians are eligible for $5,000 or $10,000 grants, not loans, but grants for whatever project you want to do, a recording, a tour, I think a tour, but anyhow, any musical
Wow.
related thing. So maybe the city here late in the game is trying to do something to benefit musicians.
Do we still have a lot of musicians that are actually living inside Austin and making a living as musicians?
Well, there are a bunch of musicians still living here. Unfortunately, a bunch of my friends have moved out of town to the suburbs or New Mexico or further.
Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Yeah,
I was gonna
Tennessee.
say a lot of them moved to Tennessee.
Yeah, so that's been kind of discouraging to witness. But there's still a lot of musicians here, I'm sure. As to whether or not they're making a living, that's a whole nother question. But this program the city has set up is at least a little pinpoint of light in what otherwise is a very expensive place to live.
Yeah, it's been interesting because if you look at the bands or the music that's starting to come to Austin, we're starting to get like world-class level, like big giant bands where we just had the Country Music Awards were held in Austin
Yeah.
for the first time ever outside of Nashville, and that brought in like huge phenomenal acts. And I've been noticing more and more, it's like these bands that would normally skip Austin are now hitting Austin. And meanwhile, the smaller musician scene, which kind of was the core, of like what Austin was, is, gotten more
They're
frazzled.
playing
But
the free shows down on South
yeah,
Congress.
I want to give a shout out to my favorite local Austin band, Urban Heat. You rock. Okay.
There you go.
Yes, and they are rocking. They're on tour, and they started in Austin, and they played local shows. They played at places like the Parish, and and just all the good stuff. And now they're on tour, and they're kicking ass. And they got voted #1 song
Wow.
in the Austin Chronicle this year. Yeah, so check them
Yeah.
out.
That's
Check out
great.
Urban Heat. They kick ass.
That's good to know that can still happen for
Yes.
the
They've been
grassroots
here
on up.
forever. They're local. They've been here working, before they were Urban Heat, they were Blaxploitation. They were, I've watched kind of them iterate themselves, or actually Blaxploitation still exists, but John Hortzman, who's the lead singer, he's just been a solid musician living in Austin, playing in Austin, and like really making, just making a career here in that space. And, he's got a family. We've all watched him, and it's, supported him, and yeah, I'll
Mhm.
grab their album and hold it up if you want me to.
Well, sure. But,
Hey, Max.
yeah, go ahead.
What do you think of the DPS being in Austin?
Well, I'm really concerned about that. That's that says one thing, that the city council over the last few years has really screwed up in providing the most essential thing, which is public safety. We have 300 vacancies on the police force. How can that be a good thing? And I cannot believe that's been allowed to happen. That's like dereliction of duty, for heaven's sake. If the city council is there to do one thing, is to provide for public safety, they've totally failed at that. So Watson came in, and it looked to me like he was actually eager to make a deal with the state. I want to say here that I suspect, the only way Watson got elected in this recent election was with the help of Republicans. They formed a PAC, they raised a lot of money, and they really campaigned hard against Celia in the runoff. And so he got elected with Republican help. And in politics, there's a lot of deal making that happens. So maybe in return, I'm hypothesizing here, maybe in return for that help, he made a deal to bring in DPS, which the state has been wanting to do for some time. I think it's really dangerous. And I couldn't believe that Watson did that
I
without
was
the
shocked.
city council. I mean,
Well,
how do you do
it's
that without telling or asking or getting a vote from your colleagues? Wow.
Yeah, at the least.
it's a thing that is happening in other states too. That the Republican state governments are trying to take control of cities that tend to be Democratic or blue.
Absolutely.
And I think it started here in Texas, and I think it started with Abbott, wanting to influence Austin policies. And I don't know, he was threatening to take over this or that aspect of city government. And it's a weird and interesting trend. And the odd thing about it is that Republicans are supposed to be like all about power to the edges, like let cities run themselves, let states run themselves. And the idea that they would want to intervene at state level in the running of a city seems to contradict their core beliefs.
Well, if they have core beliefs, and that one about local
Good
control,
point.
they only believe in that until they don't.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
Until
hate Austin.
until
Oh,
they
they
want to mess
hate
with
it.
Austin. And see, Abbott wanted to do that before. He wanted to put DPS downtown around the Capitol, and then Watson invited him in as soon as he got to be mayor. He invited them in. So I think that's really dangerous. I think it's the nose, the camel's nose under the tent. And it's like, okay, if you're going to hold still for that, what about this or what about that?
Yeah.
Another legislature, Ellen Troxell, introduced that bill to mess with Project Connect, the light rail stuff.
Yes,
So
of course.
That's another huge example of that.
I was noticing that the DPS published their arrest statistics since they started working on the streets of Austin as local police officers, and it was incredible amounts of arrests and traffic stops. It looks like they're trying to really show off, say, well, Austin doesn't know what they're doing. We'll show you how to arrest people, and they seem to be really doing it.
And
I think
because
so.
of that, one of the questions that I have is, marijuana is decriminalized in this town and in this county. I don't know, but definitely in this town. And if a DPS officer pulls me over, it's against the
done.
state law.
Yeah, he's going to bust
So-
you.
Mhm.
Yeah, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
I mean, I'm hearing that they're doing that. I'm
Yeah.
hearing that they are making arrests for marijuana possession. I haven't seen it in black and white for sure for myself. Just I'd say at level of rumor, but I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah, the hope is, though, at
I
the
will
district
say
attorney level,
that
it
they
gets them off.
they are at the state level introducing, and it's so frustrating to even talk about this, lesser criminalization rules for marijuana right now at the state level. And I believe it passed the House. I could be wrong.
No, I read
you
that. Yeah,
know,
I read that too.
Yeah, yeah.
And
and,
it seems
you
like
know, it's
Abbott's on board
again,
with that, which is
just
Yeah, maybe so. I
unbelievably
mean, it's a great source of tax revenue, and Sid Miller, the agriculture commissioner, is definitely against it. I mean, for it.
for
good.
it.
for it. Yeah.
No, he is.
Well,
Yes, for it.
inviting DPS in is another step to like an occupying army,
Yeah.
Mhm,
Yeah,
agreed.
exactly what it is.
Literally a police state, right?
Yeah,
Well,
it's
kinda.
literally a police
And
state.
it's bad enough, and it used to be that a lot of police officers, because of the cost of living, had to live outside Austin. So they lived in the communities all around Austin. They'd drive into work, they'd do their job. So that was a bad tendency of, they don't live here,
Mhm.
they just come into town to do their work, and then they go back home. That's not a good thing.
They're
And
not
now this is-
policing their own
For,
communities
you
that
know,
they
for
invest in.
policing or teaching,
Yes.
or there's
Yes,
there's
and
a
now this
lot
is
of things
even-
that's not a good thing for.
This is even another step down that path of another law enforcement agency coming into town that
Well,
has
perhaps they
different
can catch
training,
our serial
different
killer.
values. Pardon?
I said, perhaps they can catch our serial killer. I've heard him referred to as the downtown drowner. I'm sorry. I don't know if that's it, but then we've had like 4 bodies pulled out of Town Lake in the past 30 days.
Yeah,
And
weird.
yes, this is all like current active news. It's actually made
Yeah,
national
I
news.
read about a
That-
couple of those.
Because there's just been so many, but it goes to the point of like no patrolling. I mean, these are happening in like
Right.
very populated areas, and there's, I mean,
Well,
there's
if
been
the
like
state police can't do anything, what should we do?
Exactly
Bring in
my
the
point.
National Guard?
exactly.
Yeah, don't it?
Control that
We're
little
just we're
switch.
in we're in to- we're
Governor Abbott would send in the National
Really
Guard if
best.
he could, and he probably could.
Well, and I do have some questions about the like government related questions about like if it's illegal here to have an abortion and they want to restrict our travel, is that even a thing that is a possibility, do you think, in your mind, that they would say women from Texas cannot go to another state to have a baby because to have an abortion? Because that's what's being talked about on the social media all over the place. And I know that it's been kicked around in Tennessee and Kentucky.
So would you set up stops at the borders of the state and check any women coming through, like give them a pregnancy test?
Yeah. How does it work? And if so, do you make them
You have to pee
stay
to flee.
there? Do you make them stay there though? Or
You just
I
send
mean-
them back home.
how is that supposed to work?
You put them in a baby detention camp until they have their baby, and then sorry.
Oh, well, now we're on the dark side. I don't
Yeah,
know.
you see, we
so-
said we could go to the dark side. That's why I put up my
I'm
nice
concerned for
universal
this
light.
city because I also just heard that someone in Frisco, of all places, has decided that they want Austin. This is a congressperson wants Austin to be a district and instead of a town or a city.
Sort of like DC.
Yes,
Yeah,
which
and
would
DC has worked really well.
and disenfranchise us, right? Which is, it goes back to how much our government hates Austin. They hate the hippies in Austin.
Well,
They come into
they
town-
don't care too much for Democrats in general. I don't think it's just hippies in Austin.
I'm pretty sure they hate Austin pretty much.
I don't know how many hippies are left in Austin. I mean, I
They're an
left, and I
endangered
don't.
species.
Yeah, it's I know that it's dwindling. I definitely
There is a geriatric community of hippies here.
The hollow is
I think they're
hippieless.
here right now.
That's
All
right.
right.
Yeah.
We're it.
I know
Their
I know a
habitat
lot
was
of
self-founded.
I know a lot of Austin hippies on the fringe, but it's just been so hard to stay.
Yeah.
So Max,
South
what
Par-
are you doing these days?
Well, I don't do much. I go to Ohio in the summertime. I grew up in Ohio and I have a place there that I go to in the summertime so I can take a break from the heat. That's always nice.
Yeah.
And I have a jam group that I helped to found 18 years ago. And we get together every Sunday and play music together.
Oh, that's great.
And we had to negotiate the COVID and the pandemic, but now we're pretty much back regular every Sunday, and that's a really great group of people to hang out with. So
How did you do that? Did you play over Zoom together? I mean, there seems to be a bit of a lag occasionally. Did that work?
We did. Well, it worked to a degree. This is a play along, sing along jam, so we're all used to everybody pitching in and singing all at
Got
the
it.
same time. When we Zoomed, we all sat and watched one person perform.
Got it.
Fundamentally different, but at least we could
Mhm.
kind of hang out together and share music together. So
That's fun. That's
so we
perfect.
kept it going that way. And we did a lot of outdoor jams, after it all settled down for a little bit and the weather permitting, we did outdoor jams. So that's a fun thing we've been doing for a long time. And I had a call. Oh, I go hear friends play music. That's something I like to do. A lot of the jamsters are gigging musicians. So we try to go out and listen to them play.
Cool.
And I don't do much politically, although I did help Celia Israel in her race for mayor. And that was
Devastating.
yeah, that really was. She was so close. I was just so impressed with how close she made it. What a good job she did.
Yeah,
And
thank you for that. Thank you for
Yeah.
your help on that.
well,
That
yeah,
was
like I said, I think Austin wanted her, but the
Mm.
Republicans raised a lot of money
yes.
and put Kirk over the top. They put him in there. They couldn't stand the thought of somebody like Celia being the
Mm-mm.
mayor of Austin.
No, we're
No.
running out of old white dudes though, so at some point we're
God, I
gonna
hope
have to
I hope
choose.
Watson's the last old white dude we have in
Please.
there. And but so I haven't been doing much politically at all except that. And then out of the blue, last week I got a call from the new chair of the Music Commission, Nagavali. She's an African woman that just has taken over the chair. She's been on the commission for 18 months. And she wanted to talk to me about the creation of the Music Commission. She
Mm.
had somehow gotten wind that I had done that way back in the
Oh.
early 90s. And so we're going to have a meeting on Sunday, this coming Sunday. And then I'm going to go to the Music Commission meeting on Monday. So
That's
that'll
awesome.
be a
That's
new
very
thing I
cool.
haven't done in a long time.
Oh,
Very
that's
cool.
cool. So are
Yeah.
you playing in public anywhere? Or is it just for fun?
I don't. It's just that jam. My last band was the Harmony Brothers with Al Dressen and Mark Gottschall. We were a harmony trio, and we had that band for 3 or 4 years, and then just like all bands, one of the guys got married and moved out of town. So that did it for us.
Damn, Yoko.
It can happen at 20 or it can happen when you're 65. Who knew?
Well, Mike, speaking of the early 90s, you supported the Save Our Springs ordinance, and that was
That's
a very
fair.
important thing. And what do you think has that effort led to clean water, or do we still have a long way to go?
Well, that was a huge battle for years and years. That was a huge long-term battle. Classic developer versus environmentalist struggle. And we won, you could say, with the passage of the SOS ordinance. And
Mhm.
that was a really good ordinance. It was groundbreaking. There wasn't another one like it in the country, maybe not the world. So we were really on the cutting edge. But I listened to all the environmentalists come up at that meeting where we adopted it. I was on the dais. And, Bridget Shea and all these environmentalists got up and said, Bill Bunch said, now this is a good ordinance, but we're not sure it's strong enough. So we'll still need to do some more work on this to strengthen it. So that was the situation when I left the council. And of course, we got sued over the SOS ordinance. And we were being sued when I left the city council in 96. In 98, we won that lawsuit. The Texas Supreme Court on a unanimous vote said we have the right to protect the people's water.
Mhm.
So they upheld the SOS ordinance. And then I thought, okay, Watson's the mayor. He campaigned on being an environmentalist. Daryl Slusher, Jackie Goodman's on there. Now's the time to bring back SOS 2, make it stronger. SOS passed by 60-40 vote. So it had the support of the court. It had the support of the people. The city council didn't do anything. They didn't even try to strengthen the SOS ordinance. And I'm just sitting on the sidelines tearing my hair out, going, what? Everything's lined up. Why don't you do it?
Yeah, it appears that the council is in favor of SOS, but that stands for Save Our Shit. So,
Well, I'll tell you why nothing happened. Let me tell you why. Kirk Watson, when he got elected mayor in 97, he had his eye on running for attorney general. That's what he really wanted to do. So his tenure as mayor of Austin, it was all about him getting ready to run for attorney general. And no way in hell was he going to be the mayor of Austin leading the fight to strengthen environmental regulations when he was running for attorney general. He didn't want that to be part of his record. because you're not going to get elected attorney general in Texas if you're an environmentalist from Austin.
No,
way.
probably
Right on.
not.
And he knew that. So he checkmated himself from doing anything because he didn't want to have to run on that record when he ran for attorney general.
I'm trying to envision Ken Paxton's environmental record.
Oh my God.
Well, it's all negative, you know.
Sorry.
It's not anything positive.
How dare you bring up K-Pax?
It's all
I'm
loosening.
sorry, that's so
It's all
gross.
loosening standards.
It's gonna make me long for Adler days, isn't it?
Oh my
No.
God, yeah.
It is, isn't it?
So,
I
well,
knew
listen,
it.
while I'm complaining about Watson, I got to remind you of this. The first thing he did when he got elected in '97 was to shut down Liberty Lunch.
Oh,
Yeah, he did.
Watson took my liberty. Watson ate
But
my lunch.
why?
Oh.
Why did he shut down Liberty Lunch?
That
Because,
could have
City
killed
Hall.
him.
because he did it very purposefully. He wanted to send a message to everybody, the developer community especially, that we're done with this hippie music bullshit. We're going high tech. We're going big money. We're going to go development. That's what it was.
Well, and it actually happened. So
it really
got his
happened.
wish.
Big tech
And
company there.
this is what really bugs the hell out of me. So he gave that land, instead of having competitive bidding for that city-owned land Liberty Lunch was on, he made a sweetheart deal with CSC Computer
Mhm.
Corporation. They're a big defense contractor. So instead of having
Huh.
this hippie world music, love and peace club, we gave that land to a defense contractor.
Nice.
That tells you right there the moment that Austin changed.
Died.
That's when
Died.
gentrification became the
Died.
order of the day.
Was
was it.
murdered, honestly, was
It-
absolutely murdered. I mean,
It
Well-
was murdered with malice and,
Yeah,
and
with malice.
consciously. It wasn't like oh, did that happen? Sorry. It was
Yeah.
like purposeful
no.
with
And
malice.
it still feels that way. I mean, honestly, like I think that's why people, when people talk about old Austin and new people are like, it's like, no, you just don't kind of understand.
Yeah, they're like, no, I
how
love this
brutal that shift
city.
was.
Mm.
It was just such a brutal shift.
It's not the same. It's just there's nothing. I mean, once you say, oh yeah, you can build higher than the Capitol, and then you can build higher than the UT, and then all bets are off, man. There's so many cranes in the skyline, you can't get a decent picture anymore. And I mean, I guess I like some of the buildings, but it makes me so sad. It used to be, there wasn't this.
It all looks and feels haphazard is what I hate about it. Like, it just is like everybody kind of went in and went, "Bah."
Well, you know how people
Pull it up.
complain about Californians coming to Texas, but what you see here is that the San Francisco Silicon Valley way of doing business came to Texas, and Texas, Austin, similar to San Francisco, is becoming incredibly expensive and hard to live in, really.
And a lot of Texans are moving to Austin. Like I think that's our biggest number of.
It is
Ex-
the biggest
Texans?
influx. Yeah,
Yes, Texans
are
from
the biggest
Dallas and
influx.
Houston.
But it's
and-
conservatives.
Oh,
And that's a key thing to say, like that phrase, all the Californians, that's actually, I mean, it's really more conservatives that came to Texas, it's not Californians. Californians and people from the East Coast, and, Governor Abbott put out a pretty strong call towards conservatives coming to our state.
Right,
Not Disney.
Californians who don't want to live in California because California is not
Right, but it
conservative, so
wasn't
they
just
come here.
California. There were quite a few different, arteries of influx, I should say, that we're not necessarily. I mean, I don't know. I feel like that it's had like a dramatic impact on our overall culture without question.
So
Like,
can we agree that we will all get together and start a commune in New Mexico?
Yeah. How
I've
about
been to
Silver
New
City?
Mexico. Thanks. No, thanks.
How about Silver City?
Silver City? That'd be good.
Can I buy like a timeshare?
Max, the fall of the old Austin seems to have really revolved partially around what happened to East Austin, because that used to be a cool place to go. When I would come, when I moved out to California, I would still come back and visit, and places to go were the cool places in East Austin. And all of a sudden, those places are something else. That's become gentrification's become the watchword now.
$10
my.
coffee.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know what happened to East Austin was the light rail. I mean, the light rail coming through there. And I told Gus Garcia, I said, Gus, that's gonna ruin your community, putting light rail there, because light rail is not just a transportation system. It is all about development, because you have to have the density around the light rail line to make it work. So the density and the gentrification that follows is not an unfortunate accident. It's part of the plan.
Well, I
So-
think one other thing that happened was people who were like students at UT were buying houses over there because they could get them really cheap. And then they were graduating and starting to do better and fix their houses up. And sooner or later, you had more and more people who were like middle class, upper middle class, moving into the neighborhood and having more and more money. So money was moving into East Austin.
Oh, definitely. And that
I
was
don't know
a
if it was
factor.
organic though.
Yes, that was more organic and sustainable than the 3 and 4 story apartment condo buildings that are lining
It's true.
streets over there. I mean, that's just like a giant boulder going into the swimming pool, and splashing all the natives out. No,
It's
who-
interesting that that rail was not passed through to South Austin.
Pardon me?
Well,
you
it
say?
would make sense for me to have the rail run south, north to south, but it goes. There's no rail in South Austin.
Well,
In fact, mass transit is so limited here anyway, and you can't just hop the rail and ride to, say, Ben White Boulevard.
And I think that was purposeful. I mean, and as far as the way I remember it growing up here, a lot of us really wanted rail. We wanted some kind of, or better buses, something that we could get around on and didn't have to spend half of our rent on a car payment, gas, insurance, etc.
Right.
And I feel as though the city built that rail specifically so it wouldn't work, to spite us and tell us, you see, we tried, it didn't work, moving on. That's how I feel about it. Just as a citizen, I just feel like, well, come on, you guys, can we try something else?
well, I don't know about that, but the thing is, it doesn't matter so much to them whether or not it works, because it worked for the developers, didn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you go to East Austin, look what happened. It
Yeah.
worked. So the transportation part of it, so might work, it might not. That's not the point.
Right.
The point of light rail, I got to tell you, is not transportation. The point of light rail in Austin is it's for the developers. And
What-
that's why we fought in 2000. There was a big bond election to have rail, and it was going to come right down South Congress Avenue. And myself, the Avenue merchants, the neighborhoods on either side of South Congress, Rob Lippincott at Warrows, we all organized to fight it.
That
And,
seems like a bad place.
and we fought it off. Well, it it would have ruined that part of town, and that's my part of town.
Yeah.
So I was fighting. We had a button made that said "Fight for Funk." We were fighting for the funk that
Nice.
remained on South Congress.
Nice.
And we managed to defeat rail that time, but now the development is coming down South Congress anyhow.
So,
Oh God, it's awful.
so
Even
you're
without-
you're basically opposed to rail, then, I take it.
I think rail in the right place can be effective. I have always supported it going out to the airport. I always thought that'd be a really good line out there. There's lots of open space, or there used to be, past Montopolis for development. Now that's kind of all filled in. But I thought that line would be the best place to foster development and, get people to the airport
And
in
then,
downtown.
Well, I mean, I can see that, but it makes sense to me that, I mean, to me, it seems like there should be rail that goes all the way around Austin, or some form of mass transit that works and is
Exactly.
functional in Austin,
It's-
because the bus lines are not sufficient.
and it's
Well,
too big now.
They can't function in the traffic. Even
The
if they
traffic
Yeah,
is
are.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's too big now. I after we defeated the light rail in 2000, I came out with a plan that called for electric buses, electrification of the fleets, all the fleets, city of Austin, county fleets. I wanted to really start the electric vehicle thing. And I got a hold of a electric bus manufacturer in South Carolina, brought them to Austin. They made a presentation to the Capital Metro Board. This was in 2001. And now 20 years later, they're starting to have electric buses. But back then there was resistance to that. Anyhow, I think we could do a lot with the bus system rather than pouring, what is it, $11 billion now into light rail.
Well, I mean, the bus system really needs to be overhauled then. Like, I mean, there need to be bus lanes built in everywhere because it's just a traffic stopper. It makes it inefficient. It makes traffic worse having those buses on there. Sometimes they're full and sometimes they're not. So clearly we've got timing issues as well.
We'll let Elon Musk dig a tunnel and we'll put in a subway.
Oh, he's
Well,
so great.
He's trying.
Oh, that's another question. Stephanie, what about him building right on the Colorado there? Max, what do you think they can do? Yeah, what do you think they can do about that out there?
About what, the Colorado?
Yeah, Stephanie, tell them what's going on there.
They're not going to do anything about it out there. They've already.
You mean dumping their stuff in the river?
No, he's building his own little work town called Snellbrook
Out near
Seriously.
Bastrop.
Out in
Yeah.
Muscalandia.
in Muscle. Yeah, it's
But
serious.
it's-
No, it's called Snellbrook. I really hate that name, and I just will keep saying it. And it's like a work town. It's like a if an employee gets fired, they basically, I think, have like 24 hours to leave. I mean, like
They have their
it's
house
like-
there and
and
their
they're putting in
shops
like
there.
90. They're putting in 90 homes, from my understanding. It's going to be 90 homes. They're all for Elon Musk employees, like for the boring, I guess the boring, or whatever. He owns so many things in this area now, and he's developed so much. And I don't know about you who live out in this area, but do you ever hear the rumble? Because sometimes we get like just a rumble and like
Oh,
yeah, just
wow.
working out.
No.
But he's building it right along the river, which seems to me like that's probably because it's a whole Tesla factory, I guess.
Yeah.
Plus all the,
Oh,
I
yeah,
mean,
it's under construction right now.
No, it's
right. And
fully happening.
so I think he's probably going to pay some people off to at Lycra, at the Lower Colorado River
There's-
Authority. It's just, it seems dangerous to me to have that stuff going on right there. A
Well, the
big
whole
business
problem-
like that.
The whole problem with company housing, I grew up early on in company housing. My dad was in the oil business. He worked in the oil fields. And if you worked for that company, they had little houses for you. You lived in this little settlement right around the refinery. And it was, it was convenient, short commute, but it allowed them to totally control your life, because if you decided to complain, you were suddenly evicted. It's like, no, sorry, you complained to the boss, so you need to go and find a place 20 miles from here, but you can't live in the company housing. And it's usually very substandard. I mean, I can't see Musk putting a lot of money into somebody else's house. His own house, sure, not
Well, yeah, then
an
there you got
ordinary worker.
shortcuts. And so what happens when Elon, I mean, that man can't,
It'll just whatever. It'll become a terrible thing like everything else he does. I'm not a fan. Sorry, not a fan. No muskrat love here. Okay.
I don't think it was I wish he hadn't come. Yeah. I
Well, now
didn't-
this is just billionaire bashing.
Yeah.
No,
No.
I actually love some billionaires. I am actually not billionaire bashing. Okay.
I'm trying to think of one I like, but
I don't think I know any billionaires. You guys
I
are
think
as
it's a
close as
broad
it
statement to
comes.
say I love some, because that seems like a lot of something.
yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know. Sometimes, yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I
They are
wonder,
hard
like,
to
if
relate
I
to.
was, if I was a billionaire, I would like to think that I would say, hey, US government, here's, $500 million to put towards the deficit or something. I'm good over here. I appreciate all that you've done for me. And
like-
now I'm gonna move on. Why? Why can't people do that? It's not like they're gonna starve.
They're playing
they
a different
do that.
game.
Okay, question for Max. So Max, we're obviously Austin has been moving in a direction that a lot of people are not happy with, and some of the magic seems to have been smothered, if not driven off in some weird direction. So, do you have thoughts about what we could do what's the best thing that we could do to save what we can of Austin or make Austin a more livable place than it's, I mean, I don't think we can reverse the trend exactly, but what sort of things could we be doing?
How do we make Austin great again?
Yeah. MAGA.
Well, I think to sit around in small groups and remember how Austin used to be, I think that's about the best we can do.
Oh shit. I was
That's
afraid
what we're
you'd say
doing right
that.
now.
Here we
I
are.
know.
Here we are.
I think this is it. And then,
Man.
That ship
eventually
has
we'll all be gone and it'll
sailed.
be like, it'll be a myth.
Yeah, nobody
Yeah.
will
The
remember.
myth of Austin. That's true.
And
It's true.
John, I'm glad you mentioned magic. See, in any discussion of Austin in the 70s, you got to use the word magic to describe it.
Yeah,
Because
I mean, there was a
it was
vibe.
magic.
You could
It
feel it.
It was magic every day at all these little music events, and just in the
Schultz's
clubs and
beer
everywhere.
garden. Going
Barton
to
Creek,
Schultz's.
Barton
Yeah,
Springs. The
Deep
magic
Eddy.
was palpable, and
Yeah.
that's what's gone. I mean, the magic has been sold, and now we're a big money town. So there's no going back. I mean, I don't think there's any going back. We can try to preserve little pockets. There's still some places of funk or old Austin, and try to support those, preserve them.
There's always Giddy Ups or Sam's Town Point.
Yeah.
Sam's
and,
Town Point is the best.
Yeah.
Hey,
It
I
is.
saw my favorite. I saw my
It
favorite
is.
local band at the parish. Just a month or
Nice,
two ago.
nice. I
mean,
wish Liberty Lunch was around, Mr. Watson. Oh, he's getting an earful from me later.
Give it to
Oh,
him.
all of those places seem to have a magnetic attraction to people like me who I went to school at North Texas and up in Denton. And on a weekend, it was not unusual for a bunch of us to find whoever had gas in their car and drive down to Austin because we knew it was going to be fun. It's way more fun than the dry county of Denton.
absolutely.
And when I lived and worked in Houston, the same way, all the hippies in Houston go, "Hey, let's go to Austin."
Yeah.
I remember wandering over to Kenneth Threadgill's place on North Lamar,
Oh yeah,
and there would be, you talked about having a circle of musicians sitting around and playing. That he had that regularly at
Yeah.
his old former gas station.
Yep.
And, you'd go in there and get some beer and sit around and listen to the people play. And it was just great. And it was a very relaxed vibe. It wasn't uptight. I mean, Austin's kind of uptight now.
Yeah,
Yes.
kind of aggro. Austin's gotten very aggro.
It has.
Honestly,
It's gotten some kind of weird.
Well, everybody
injection.
came for the magic, and they didn't realize that they smushed it all.
Well, all the magic had to move out. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we're left with people like us who lived it and people like us who can remember it, keeping it alive in that way. I mean, that's a way to keep it alive, I suppose, in our memories. But otherwise, it's too big, it's moving too fast, the value system has changed, and there's no going back.
Plus it's culture. I think Austin's trying to figure out who it is now. It truly lost its culture and it wants to be something. And it is, I think, working hard to be something, but it's just sort of
A couple of
feels
years ago,
disordered.
they had, I don't know if this actually happened, but I know some bar owners who were talking to me about it, and the city wanted to install these like credit card readers on, just at random places so you could run your credit card to tip the band, which is just stupid in the first place because then now they have to claim it, right? Because
Well,
it's
the
been,
club's going to keep that and not give it to the
well,
band.
and then the club gets a part, but the city was taking 10%.
Oh, geez.
And it's
Yeah.
like, what are you doing to encourage these people to stay here?
They put out like 20 of them, like to test market.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
who's
it was
going to do
so
that?
bad.
I'll give you a $5 tip, but that I would put in a bucket. But because I use this easier thing, you just now got $1.25 because everybody took their piece.
Yeah, you got a $5 ticket, but the mayor's standing over there to the side, and he takes $2.50 on it.
Exactly.
Well, I don't know. I went to, so David Damaris, who is a friend of Plutopia. In fact, he's the person who gave Plutopia its name. He was a musician and was playing. He has a nice jazz band. And he was playing at the Cork and Screw, which is this kind of interesting little place in East Austin where you basically go in, you can buy a bottle of wine, you go sit in back and listen to the music. And they had a tip jar there, and on the side of the tip jar, they had their Venmo QR code pasted. And basically, I know that any tips that they got were going to them. They weren't being shared elsewhere.
Yeah.
And there's I think there's a lot of odd little places like that and odd little scenes around town. I mean, it kind of felt like old Austin too, in a way, to go there. I mean, we didn't have a lot of jazz back then, but it had that kind of relaxed vibe that I was talking about. And I guess, you run into that in places.
I guess I'm just tired of the attempt to phase out the use of cash. I've gone to so many places that won't allow you to use cash. Like,
what's cash? What are you talking about?
I'd rather give cash tip to my wait person than I would put it on the credit card, because look, man, those people don't make very much money and they don't want to have to claim that all the time,
Yeah.
And I don't mean to be, tax evasion, pro tax evasion, but it's sometimes it's a big,
Tax evasion.
no, we're really not. I pay my taxes, but I also think here's another issue I have. Okay, so you go in to pay something, and right now you say, "Oh, we don't take cash," and I thought it was a law that you had to take cash as legal tender. You just had to take it.
That's why it's called legal tender.
Well, yeah, but so apparently you don't. And so I'm afraid it's going to get totally phased out, and I don't know how I'm going to pay my weed dealer.
Now there you go.
That's my issue. This is my whole issue all the way around.
Honestly, but technically, that's really, in a real sense, it's technically the weed dealer's problem, because he's got multiple people who are going to have that same issue. Or she.
You just
or
tell
they.
your weed dealer to download
I don't know.
Venmo.
I'm just saying in general.
No, but you can't do it on Venmo
No.
anymore because
No.
they tax
They
you.
implemented taxes. Yeah.
Taxes.
Anything over 300 or 600. It's like
600.
Abbott wants
like,
some of
yeah.
that weed deal, that's for sure.
Yep.
How much weed are you buying at once? Are you
Not
buying
that
six?
much.
Hey, HIPAA,
Hardly any.
HIPAA.
Hardly any at all. Just totally the amount that's okay in Austin. by the
Yeah,
Austin
it
police.
depending on who stops you in this
Yeah.
town.
That's like the question when I was like too young to drink and I was in an airplane and the stewardess or the airplane person or whatever asked me like how old I was and my response was, what state are we in? It's just
Hey,
Oh,
5 minute warning. We've got 5 minutes left.
All right.
Listen, I just wanted to tell you before we go that I'm going, as I mentioned, I'm going to the Music Commission meeting on Monday, and I have a couple great ideas on how to get more money in musicians' pockets.
Oh, that's
Woo.
great.
I'm fixing to solve on Monday all these problems we've been talking about musicians not being able to afford to live here.
Where can
Yeah,
we
that's
follow
great.
this? Where can we follow this
I don't know.
Yeah.
to see what's
I don't-
going
I
on?
guess they televise their meetings on
Okay.
Channel 6. I don't know. It used to be Channel 6. I don't know if it still is.
We don't have public TV anymore in this town. That's
I
local
know that was something
public
I was going to
TV.
mention because
We don't.
I
No, we do not.
What the hell happened?
We don't.
It's all podcasts now.
It's There's no public
this is it.
television.
This is
Alex
our public
Jones.
TV.
Alex Jones killed it. That's
Yeah,
what
Alex Jones made it
It's-
go away.
It's a very serious issue, I think. I mean, it used to be, you used to watch Flash Jordan or
Ask
know,
Libby alive.
I mean, there was all so much fun, and you got to see the city council meetings.
I
Yeah.
think
That
the
was a
fact that
really
Alex
important-
Yeah.
got famous is what scared people away from having the public access.
I was just thinking the other day about how KUT used to broadcast the city council meetings. I think maybe they don't do that anymore, but at the time they were a music station as well as they had all kinds of content, including music. And if the council took a break, Larry Monroe would come on and he had what he called the Phil Music program,
Yes.
where he played Phil music, and he played some really great stuff. We always kind of looked forward to that. And Larry Monroe is no longer with us, and KUT is split into two stations, and they don't really play like there's nothing like the old Paul Ray Jazz show. Oh my God,
Well,
I'm starting to
to be-
sound like an old fart
To be
lamenting the loss of.
fair,
Oh
to be
no!
fair,
Silver
they
Fox.
still do. They have an affiliate with Co-op, and Co-op can play some pretty cool stuff sometimes.
Yeah, co-op wasn't around back then, so
Yeah,
that is
that's
a
true.
great option for sure. We love co-op radio.
Do
And
love
Larry
Co-op.
Monroe's got a great bridge down in Stacey Park. You ever go down there?
Oh yeah, I remember. I haven't been to Stacey Park in years.
I used
Yep.
to live right on 2020 South Congress, so I used to be down there all the time.
Yeah, little Stacy, they made that little bridge across the creek there, the Larry Monroe Bridge. It's great.
So great.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
check it out.
Will do. And we hope you'll come back and visit us again, and maybe you can talk more about your plan for reviving the music industry in Austin.
I'm
Well,
excited.
listen, after I go meet with them, I'll come back and report to you about it. And
Yes.
also, I've got a whole bunch of good stories I didn't get to tell you tonight, like, how I discovered Austin in 1973 and, some of the stuff that happened in my campaigns. I wrote all
Yes.
this material down for this hour presentation.
Oh
but
shoot!
we didn't get to most of it.
I'm sorry, we talked too much.
Well, we'll
Yeah,
have to
well, there
have
was
you
just
back
so much to
soon.
talk about.
Well, let's get you back. Let's go ahead and get you scheduled as quickly as possible. We'd love to have you back, and we want to hear those stories. I would love to hear those stories.
Oh, I love people's
Absolutely.
stories. And like I said, this is what's keeping Austin alive these days is our memories and our stories. So this is what we got.
All right.
Why don't you come back on June the 8th? No, I'm sorry. We're holding that on June the 15th.
Yes.
Will you remind me?
I certainly
Yes.
will.
Okay. And I'll be in Ohio out in the farm. I don't know if we have that technology up in Ohio yet. Do you think we do?
Oh,
Depends
Well,
on if you have broadband.
What would be a better time? I'm trying to find a time. I'm going to be gone for a couple of weeks. So when will you be back from Ohio?
October.
Oh, yeah. No, we'll just have to. I'll ping you. I'll go ahead and put this in as a possible for June 15th, and then I will ping you between now and then. When you're there, we can give it a test and see how it works before we actually
Oh, okay.
commit to it.
And then we all have to shut up and let the stories come because I want to hear some really good stories.
Well, you have to prompt the
Absolutely.
stories. I mean, that helps a lot. So you
Okay,
can't just
all
sit
right.
there and be quiet.
We can do that.
You can prompt.
All right.
Oh.
Okay. Well, I think we have 1 minute left.
Well, thanks for having me on. It was sure fun.
It was
It
a
was fun
pleasure.
It was
Yeah.
a blast having you
Absolutely.
here.
It was an
Yeah,
honor.
Nice to visit with
absolutely.
y'all.
And thank you for your work on Celia's complaint, on her campaign. Maybe next time.
Oh, I hope she runs again.
I do.
Oh,
too.
me too.
Yeah.
Me too. I
She'll
bet
win
she
next time.
does.
She'll win next time.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you, sir.
Thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
Thanks,
Good to see you,
everybody.
John.
Good night, everyone.
Good to see y'all.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Good night.
Good night.